Hello and welcome to another Vlogtober. Today I'm going to share all about our trip to Lisbon. Came back 11:30 last night. I'm still quite tired, but I want to get this filmed while I still remember what we did. I have got some notes because I don't even remember now what we did yesterday, barely. It was such a packed 5 days. We had 5 full days in Lisbon. So 1 day travel either side of that, so 7 days in total, but 5 days in Lisbon. Loved Lisbon, fantastic city. Definitely want to go back. Really enjoyed it, but I'm absolutely exhausted and my body feels slightly broken. We'll talk more about that. I did go to a couple of yarn shops. I did buy some yarn, and I took a project with me, which yeah, we'll get to the project in a minute. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you're new here, my name is Anniken. I design knitting patterns. I teach knitting workshops online and in person, and I sell yarn through my website YarnAddict.co.uk. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. So the first day we were there, the first full day, got up, we headed into town. My youngest daughter, was there last month for a few days with some friends. So we kind of left it up to her to plan where to start. So she took us to Commercial Plaza. I'm not sure what it's called in Portuguese. I've only written down Commercial Plaza, but it's right in the center of town by the seaside. Really pretty, big square with a view over the river. And if you walk through there's an archway at the center of it. If you walk through that, you get into like what I think is the main shopping area with loads of shops and restaurants. And that part of town is fairly flat. The rest of Lisbon is very, very hilly. So we went to Commercial Plaza. We had a look around there. We walked up some of the streets beyond that. We didn't look in any shops. We did go to a cafe. And then we decided that we were going to try and catch one of the historic trams. So they have modern trams in Lisbon, but they also have some really old historic trams. I think are probably 100 years old or a bit older. And they are single carriage trams. And the good thing is, because they're single carriage, they can go through some of the older parts of town where the new trams can't go because it's too narrow. So we decided to catch tram 28, and I'd read that it was best to catch it from one of the start points. So it goes it doesn't do a circular route. It starts at one end and then it goes through the city to the other end. And we decided to catch it from the end that was closest to the old town. I didn't write down what that was called. So we called the metro there and queued up. And we knew it was going to be a long queue because Emily had told us she'd done that tram. Not sure that she'd done all of it, but part of it with her friends when she was there last month. So we queued up middle of the day, like early afternoon, I think it was. It was very, very hot. It was mid to high 20s the whole time we were there, and sunny, so it felt hotter than it was. We queued up probably for close to an hour. When we got close to the front of the queue, there aren't that many seats on the tram, and we definitely wanted to sit because we've been standing while we've been queuing. So we definitely wanted to sit. I didn't see the point in catching it because we wanted to catch it for the experience of catching it and to see the sights along the way. So I didn't think there was much point standing down the middle because we wouldn't be able to see very much. If you're just catching it to get from A to B, then maybe that would be okay. So we definitely wanted to sit. So we could have got onto a tram earlier, but we said no because all the seats were taken. So there were two guys in front of us when our tram arrived. We got on. They have single seats along one side and double seats along the other side. So we all took a single seat each. So we all had window access. It did go very fast down some of the hills though, and some of the pavements are very, very narrow. And there were some pavements where there was barely enough room for one person to walk between the houses and the tram. Let me know if you would have gone on the tram. We really enjoyed it. And I think it's worth catching it. I think if you want to catch it for the experience of riding the tram, you definitely want to go to one of the endpoints. I think where we ended, which was near a park that I can't remember the name of, I think that was probably the quieter end to catch it from. Or it might just be by the time we got there, it was later in the afternoon, and not that many people wanted to get on it. I don't know. But there was few people there queuing for it. There were people queuing along the route to get on, and they had no chance of sitting down. So if you want to catch it for the experience, I recommend going to one of the start points and riding the whole length of it. Second day, I don't have any video footage of. We went to the Freeport designer shopping outlet outside of Lisbon. It's south of Lisbon. We got the train from Entre Campos train station, which was 10 minutes walk from our Airbnb, to Lisboa Oriente train station. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. I'm assuming it's Lisboa Oriente, but I'm not sure. Train station. Little word of warning, getting tickets from a ticket machine at the train station. We were trying to work out how to get the tickets. As they were printing, this guy came over and started speaking to us, and then he grabbed our tickets, and my daughter very quickly grabbed them back off him. She was waiting for them all to print out before she took them, and he started talking to us, and I think he was trying to help us, but we weren't sure that he was trying to scam us, trying to steal our tickets. And when we got them, Emily grabbed them off him as soon as they all come out. She just snatched them off him, and then we just ran up the stairs, and he was shouting after us. So what I'm assuming is that he was trying to catch them, like he was helping us, and he would then wanting us to pay him, like tip him for his help. Well, we didn't want his help, so we just ran away. The problem with that was that we were struggling to find any kind of screen to tell us where to catch the train from, and I ended up asking somebody on the platform, and we were on the right platform, luckily. But there are very few screens at that station. I don't know whether other stations in Lisbon are the same, but it was very difficult to work out where to catch the train from. In the UK, most stations that I've been to at least have screens on the platform telling you which train's coming next. And they quite often also have a rolling thing telling you all the stops. This didn't have that. So we were just hoping we were on the right train. When we got to Lisboa Oriente station, we had to just walk across the road to the coach station and catch a bus to the shopping outlet. And we hadn't drawn out any cash because we were just using Google Pay or Apple Pay, no, Google Wallet or Apple Pay to pay the whole time. And you need cash for that bus. So Simon and Emily had to go over to the train station and try and find cash point and drew out some cash so we could pay for our tickets in cash. That was fine. It wasn't that expensive. Can't remember how much it cost. But there is a shuttle bus as well that you can catch to the shopping centre from the centre of Lisbon. But it looks like it only runs twice a day in each direction, and it's more expensive than catching the regular bus. On the way back, because it was quite hot, we decided to get an Uber because it worked out cheaper to get an Uber for the four of us, to pay for four of us to go on the bus and then the train. So we just got an Uber back. The big lesson we learned on this trip was that Ubers are very, very cheap. I didn't film anything at the shopping centre because it's just like any other designer shopping outlet, really, that you've been to. They're a bit twee, a bit boring. I did buy something. I bought a sling bag, like a sporty sling bag from Puma. It was only like £10. It wasn't very expensive, but I quite fancied one, so I got that. On day 3, we were going to have a quiet day. Simon and the girls are all really into coffee, so they wanted to go and visit a couple of more kind of specialist coffee shops that were had a good reputation for good coffee. I wanted to go and visit a couple of yarn shops. So there was a yarn shop near where we stayed called Las Imperial. It's about 15 minutes from where we stayed. So I walked half the way, and then I caught the bus just for 2 stops because I was a bit worried that there was going to be too much walking. I have chronic back and neck pain. I have arthritis in my knees. Even without the arthritis in my knees, when I was in my 30s, I remember we went to London once, and I ended up in so much pain, my back, my hips, my knees. So I've been having these problems for a long time. And if I walk a lot, especially in cities, I end up in a huge amount of pain. So I want to try and reduce the amount of walking I was doing. So I thought I'd rather just pay for the bus, even if it's just 2 stops. Las Imperial, unless you happen to be in that part of the city, it's near the Roma metro station. So unless you happen to be there, I wouldn't really bother making the effort. It's a tiny, tiny shop. I didn't film anything in there. There were 3 people sitting around a table in the middle, and what I assume was a member of staff showing them yarn and talking to them. I walked in, said good morning in Portuguese. I know it's obvious that I'm a tourist and don't speak very good Portuguese. But they all looked at me, but nobody spoke to me. I had a look around, and I just got ignored. I really wanted a crochet hook, but they just ignored me, so I ended up leaving. So I wasn't very impressed. The yarn shop I really wanted to go to was Retrosaria Vidosa Pomai. Really pretty yarn shop, quite close to public transport. Really pretty shop. It's not huge. They have a lot of their own brand of yarn, a lot of Portuguese wool, which I did buy some of, which I'll show you in a minute. And they had some Manos Uruguay Fino, which I sell, so I don't need to buy that abroad. And they had some La Bien Amy, which is in Indidar in Paris. She had dyed some of their own brand yarn, so Rosa Pomar own brand yarn, and there was also some that was La Bien Amy branded, I think. There was also some, I think there was some Shuffle. Most of the brands that I was interested in was just their own brand, because the other brands they had, I have access to here. So I wasn't really interested in that. So just to show you what I bought at Rosa Pomar, I needed a crochet hook, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So I bought a crochet hook. I actually bought 2 crochet hooks. My favorite crochet hooks are the brown, boring clover crochet hooks. I couldn't find my 3.75 crochet hook before I left. So I bought one of those because I know I like them. Then I also got one from Knit Pro. I've tried Knit Pro before and I like them. I'm actually going to do a review on crochet hooks coming up on my channel, maybe later this year, maybe early next year. I haven't decided yet, because I haven't started filming them yet. Because I have some very strong opinions about certain crochet hooks and which ones I love and which ones I do not like. So I really like these clover ones, but they're a bit boring because they're just like brown. But I couldn't find my 3.75 one, millimeter one, so I bought one of those, and I also bought a Knit Pro one. The Knit Pro one is in my project, and I'm not going to get it out now. But so I got the 2 crochet hooks. But I really wanted to buy some yarn, and I looked at this yarn, and they had a very nice kind of variegated sort of speckled colorway, which I really liked, and I was very tempted to buy, but it's non-superwash, and I was thinking it'd be great for socks, but it's non-superwash, and I'm not knitting socks out of non-superwash yarn. So I ended up getting this hot pink. You can see why I got that, because it's pink. It is Mondim, which is a non-superwash yarn made from fine Portuguese wool. This batch was entirely made from the wool of Campanicha sheep. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. From Baixo Alentejo. And it's, I think it's Rosa Pomar's own, yes, it's their own brand wool. So it feels fairly soft in the brand, but I'm not sure how soft it's going to knit up. Doesn't feel too rustic. I have no idea what I'm going to knit with this. It's about a 4-ply weight, 385 meters per 100 grams, 100 against Portuguese wool. So I don't know what I'm going to make with it, but I like this color. So I thought I'd treat myself. Couldn't really buy any more because I don't have any space in my luggage. So I just bought that one, and I was struggling to fit that into my backpack. So I'm glad I didn't buy any more. And then after that, I was going to go off and meet Simon and the girls, but they were still back at the Airbnb, and I didn't want to go back there. So I just got the metro to the city centre, walked around a couple of squares right in the city centre in the Baixo neighbourhood. I had a look around the market, and I went and looked at the Santa Justa lift, which is a big sort of metal structure. I went to a coffee shop. I then went off to meet Simon and the girls. They were in this really tiny coffee shop, and which was packed, and they had a tiny table with 3 stools around it. By this point I was quite hot, I was quite bothered, and I was starting to hurt a bit. So I really want to sit somewhere where I could sit in a slightly more comfortable chair and relax for a while. And I'd seen a coffee shop just around the corner, which had an outside terrace in the shade. So I said to them, I'll leave you to your coffees. I'll go to this coffee shop around the corner, meet me there when you're finished. So I walked around there, got a pastel de nata and a cold drink, sat outside in the shade and did a bit of crochet for a while, till they came and found me, and then we headed off to our next destination. So we went to a park, which I can't remember the name of now, and it's got quite a nice viewpoint. You can look straight down the hill to the sea. And there were some sculptures and things there which were quite attractive. One of them was a bit phallic looking. I'm not sure whether I videoed it or not. We decided to go from there to the Botanical Park, which was about half an hour walk away. I'd already done quite a lot of steps by this point, and I thought I'm a bit worried about because I was already in quite a lot of pain, and it was very, very hot. So Nessa and I decided we would catch the bus, and Emily and Simon walked, and we are going to meet them there. I thought we were meeting at a coffee shop. Anyway, Vanessa and I walked up to the top of the park where the bus was going from. So we had to walk for probably like 10 minutes or nearly 10 minutes. We waited at this bus stop for half an hour, and it was so hot. It was so hot that my phone actually started to shut down because it was overheating, because I was sitting with my phone in my hand. And eventually the bus turned up. Another bus turned up. There was no buses at all. They came the whole half hour we were sitting there. Buses were going the other way all the time, but no buses in the direction we want to go. Finally, this bus turned up, and I said to Vanessa, let's just get on this one. And she said, no, Mum, it's the wrong one. And then we saw that our bus was behind us. So we got the bus to where we needed to get off to meet Simon and Emily. We were walking down the street. By this point, I was really hot. I was really thirsty. I was quite hungry. And I thought we were meeting them in a coffee shop. And Vanessa rang them to find out where they were. And they were in the Botanical Park. Now, you have to pay to get into the Botanical Park. It's only €5. But I was desperate to sit down somewhere and relax for a while and have something to eat and drink. So I had a bit of a hissy fit, to be quite honest, and said, I'm not going in the park. I'm going to go and see if I can find somewhere I can get some food because I'm starving. So I left Vanessa. Turned out they weren't actually in the park. They were outside the park waiting for us. But I didn't know that. I thought they were in a coffee shop and that's where we were going to meet them. So I was a bit annoyed that they weren't there. So I carried on walking until I got to this square where there was a park and a large outside coffee shop under the trees. So I managed to get a table there, ordered some lunch, sat there for like 2 hours just crocheting away, watching live. There was some a lady singing and playing the keyboard for a while, and when she left there was a guy with a guitar who came and carried on singing. So I sat in the park crocheting, watching life, enjoying myself for a couple of hours. But it was a lovely day, but I was exhausted afterwards. I'd done 17,500 steps, which with my physical problems, my disabilities, is quite a lot of walking. And I was in quite a lot of pain by that point. I think we got an Uber back to the Airbnb again that night. Day 4, we decided to go to the Tile Museum, the National Tile Museum. I'd read online that it was recommended, and I was a bit like, really? That sounds a bit boring. Emily said that when she was there last month, they'd done a mosaic workshop. And she said some of the people in their workshop had recommended it, but she thought they were probably just interested in that kind of thing. So they didn't go. But somebody at Yarndale, I can't remember who it was. If you're watching, thank you very much for the recommendation. We were talking about the fact that I was going to Portugal, and I said, well, what would you recommend? And she said the Tile Museum. You have to go to the Tile Museum. It was really a lovely museum. I've got some video to show you. Loads of tiles of various descriptions, traditional ones, more modern ones. They had some kitchen tiles that'd been found in a kitchen in central Lisbon, which were quite interesting. And we walked around there. We were probably there for a couple of hours. They did have an audio guide, but I tried to scan the QR code with my Android phone. I have a Samsung phone. It's one of the latest Samsung models. I got it last winter, and I think it was the newest one when I got it. And you had to download an app, but it said that my Android version was too new. It was only for older versions of Android. Simon and the girls who all got iPhones didn't try and download it. So we didn't do the audio guide. It might have been better with the audio guide, but we just walked around and looked at them, took pictures, took a bit of video, and read the bits that were in English. I read some of the bits in Portuguese, and I managed to understand some of it because some of it written down, a lot of it looks very similar to Spanish, and the pronunciation is completely different from Spanish, in my opinion. After we finished looking around the museum, they have a coffee shop there with a courtyard area, quite a big courtyard area that was in the shade. So we got something to eat and drink and sat there for a while and relaxed, and that was quite pleasant. And then we decided to go from there to a viewpoint. The name will be on the video I'm showing you. And we decided to get an Uber. Now, we're all very tall people, and they sent the Uber that was coming was a Fiat Punto, maybe? I don't know. It was a small Fiat. And we're all tall people. And Emily's fairly slim, but the rest of us are not skinny. And we got into this thing. I mean, how we all managed to get our legs in, I have no idea. But he was driving along, and I could hear this scraping noise, and I thought it was the mud flaps that was scraping against the road. And I was like, we're too heavy for this poor little car. But Simon thought it was actually the brake pads, which is a bit more serious. Lisbon is very hilly, and it's got a lot of windy roads, especially in the older parts of town. So we were up and down and around, and you did a very direct route, and it was up and down. I mean, you felt like you were on a roller coaster. And I was just hoping this car wouldn't break down before we got there. I was very relieved to get out. We were in the same type of car later on. It might have been later on that day or the next day. I can't remember. And that one was much, much better. It felt much safer because it didn't have the scraping sound. So still lack of space, but at least we felt like we weren't going to break down halfway there. But there's loads of these viewpoints, these miradoras around Lisbon, where you get beautiful views of the city, and it's worth going to one of them. Which one you choose to go to depends on whether you can walk there or whether you need to rely on public transport. We headed back to the flat and relaxed for a bit, and then we went back into the city centre to the Brioche area later on in the evening for a meal out. We went to a lovely Indian restaurant, had a lovely meal out, and then we walked around because we were just around the corner from the Santa Justa lift. So we walked around to look at it, and I said, well, let's get in it if we can, if it's still open. And then we realised that it actually closed down together with the other funicular trains. This isn't a funicular, but it's a lift, but they're all closed, I think, I guess for safety reasons. It probably uses similar kind of technology, I would guess. When we decided to walk from the viewpoint we'd been at earlier in the day into town, we were going to go to one of the squares I'd been to the day before, because Simon wanted to have a look at the market there. We walked down this quite steep hillside, which was where the funicular train that had the accident a couple of months ago. So the train is closed now. They've taken the carriage away, obviously, but you can walk down the hill. It's only a few hundred meters, this funicular train, so it's not very long. But we walked down there, and I said to Simon, I think this is the one where they had the accident. And when we got down the bottom, I was like, this is definitely the one. I recognize these buildings from the news. I don't know. I know at least one person died. I think it might be more. At the bottom, there were some flowers and things. Very, very steep hill and very busy area. Quite a few people walking down it. I'm assuming when the trains are running, you aren't allowed to walk down there, but we did walk down there. And yeah, it was quite poignant to thinking about those people who were injured and passed away in that recent accident. So my heart goes out to those people and their families. Last day, we went off to Sintra, which is about 40 minutes, I think, by train from Lisbon. All the guide things I read online about Lisbon said you have to go to Sintra, and all the pictures I've seen look beautiful. I think all the pictures that mainly circulate online are probably of the Pena Castle, Pena. No idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. My impression is that Sintra is basically an old part of town, a new part of town, and then loads of castles around it. It seemed to be a centre for the Portuguese royal families and aristocracy back in the day, and you really have to choose one castle to do. It was somewhere I really want to go. I'm not sure I'd go there again. I walked to the nearest train station in Lisbon and got the train there, and that was fine. This time we managed to not nearly get scammed by this guy who was supposedly helping us. Although he was walking around, we were there, but this time Emily got the tickets, Simon stood guard next to her, I stood with my back to her, kept the lookout, and I actually had my phone ready because I thought if he tries to come again, I'm going to film him or take a picture of him. But he walked past us a couple of times, but he left us alone this time. So when we got to Central, we got on the bus. Now, most people were queuing up for the bus to the Pena Castle. We decided to go to the Quinta del Religera. what's it called? Quinta da Regalera. I think that's what it was called. It's in the video. I'll show you now. We got to the bus stop. Emily had been to that same castle with her friends last month. So she knew where the bus stop was. We got there and a bus turned up, a white bus turned up. And I said to the driver, 4 tickets. Are they returned? He said yes. And because he had a payment machine thing, she had to pay by card. I didn't see what the amount that flashed up. I put my phone to pay. We have a separate account that we use for holidays from Monzo Bank, and we have a separate account each, and we have a joint account. So when we go on holiday, we transfer money to the joint account and use that for spending money while we're away. And I'd forgotten. I meant to transfer some more money into that account, and I'd forgotten. And we only had like about £40 in there. And the tickets were €54, which I hadn't noticed when I waved my phone at it. But obviously, because we didn't have enough money in that account, my payment got declined. And then I saw the amount and I was like, is that €54? And I said, no. So I said to Sam and the girls, €54? And they went, no, that's ridiculous. And Emily said, we didn't pay anywhere near that. So we stepped back and we waited for the regular bus. So what this seems to be is these white buses that go around all the different castles and things that cost a lot of money. Interrupted by a phone call. So we got the regular bus, which was just over €10, I think. Yeah, I think it was just over €10 for the 4 of us, one way. Now, it goes in a circular route, and the Quinta da Regalera is at the first quarter of the route, I think. Traffic is horrendous. There's loads of Ubers, loads of taxis, loads of tuk-tuks, loads of guys doing private tours. It was really horrific. It took a long time to get up to the castle. The castle itself, we'd pre-booked tickets, and when we only pre-booked in the evening before, and the earliest we could get was 12:30. If we're going again, I would book a 10 o'clock slot and get up early and get there early, because it was just packed when we got there. But we got there 12:35, so we just went straight in. We had to queue for a couple of minutes and we went in. Very, very hilly. So if you have mobility problems, I wouldn't recommend it. I don't know if the other castles are just as hilly. It looks like the whole of Sintra is basically built on a hilltop, on a hillside. And there's a castle right up on the hill as well, which I think was the Moorish castle. And I enjoyed it. The actual castle itself is tiny. It's a bit more like a small stately home here in the UK. And we are National Trust members, and there are loads of stately homes around where we live in Cornwall, and there's loads in Devon, and we've been to some in other parts of the country. And I've seen stately homes in this country that are way, way better than this castle. You weren't allowed to walk through the ground floor of it, and there wasn't any furniture or anything. It was very controlled. The main attraction of this castle was a pond, reflection pond. I can't remember what it was called, but basically you walk up quite a lot of steep hills. You get to the top, you queue up. We had to queue up for a while, and then it's a circular thing, and you walk down the steps. There's not actually any water there. You get down to the bottom, and there's like a tiled area. It's something to do with rebirth and reflection and stuff. When you got down the bottom, you walk through these cave areas, and that was quite interesting. But it was just a lot of people. So I don't know, if you can go quieter time of year, maybe it's better, but it's just a lot of people, a lot of walking, a lot of hills. We walk through the rest of it. There's loads of statues and like terraces and different things there. It's pretty. I'm glad I've been. I'm not sure I'll go again. When we left there, we Simon and Emily decided to walk to the station. Vanessa and I were going to catch the bus. We waited for the bus, and while we were waiting, I had a look in Google Maps. And because we're on the circular route, and this castle was probably like a quarter or a third around this circle, I worked out that to get back to the station was going to take an hour and a half once this bus eventually turned up. So we decided to walk down the hill to where Simon and Emily were. We caught up with them, and we were like, we can walk for 20 minutes. I was in quite a lot of pain by then. It was a lot of downhill and a bit of uphill. And downhill is really bad for my knees. So we tried to book an Uber. We eventually got an Uber that accepted us. We had a problem with the signal, and Emily had to use my hotspot on my phone to get a signal on her phone. We ordered an Uber. Somebody eventually accepted it, and then after a couple of minutes he messaged Emily to say we were in a forbidden area. So basically an area he wasn't allowed to drive through. Well, while we stood there, which was probably like 20 minutes, there was probably about 10 Ubers that went past us up towards the castle we'd been at. And there was another 3, 4, 5 Ubers that stopped and picked up right in front of us. So we knew that wasn't the case. And he wanted us to walk to the Allahop shop in town, which was halfway to the station anyway. So we said, no, we might as well walk all the way to the station. I'm glad we went to Sintra because it was one of those things that I wanted to do. I'm not sure what the town itself was like, because apart from walking back to the station, we didn't really see a lot of it. But I don't know if I go to Sintra again. There's a coastal town nearby, which I also want to go to that we didn't get to. And I think next time I would go to that instead, rather than Sintra. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. And sorry about the lack of knitting and crochet content in this video. At least you got some yarn shop content. Let me know if you've been to Lisbon. Did you like it? Would you recommend it? Would you go again? What did you see that we didn't do? Simon and I absolutely loved Lisbon. We definitely want to go back. So I don't think this will be our last trip to Lisbon. I've been to Portugal several times before. This was Simon's first trip to Portugal. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. And next time there will be some more knitting and crochet content, I promise. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.